Howdy there folks, and welcome back to Bolts for Bucks. Today we're going to compare the Ruger American Gen 2 bolt action rifle against the Ruger American rifle. Both are still on the market, and so this might give you some good ideas on what you should choose. Alright, so first we're going to take a look at the Ruger American Gen 1 butt stock here. It's really soft rubber and pretty soft, about 3/4 of an inch thick. Then we're going to take a look at the Ruger American Gen 2 butt stock. It has about a 1 inch thick rubber recoil pad, hexagonal cuts, and it's actually a little bit thicker in the center and kind of formed a little bit better, in my opinion, and very soft. Coming forward, you have a spacer on the Ruger American Gen 2 that's removable, so you can adjust the length of pull from 13.75 inches down to, I believe, like 12.75 or thereabouts. On the Ruger American Gen 1, you obviously don't have that. The stock on the Gen 1, very cheap feeling, and there's no splatter coat paint job or a really good grippiness on it like there is on the Gen 2. This has a really nice aggressive splatter coat paint job and is really grippy, and just not quite as tinny sounding or hollow sounding. This has a flat comb. The Ruger American Gen 2 has a comb riser on it, and you can get aftermarket ones that are higher, or you can remove it so that's lower. The grip on it is very similar actually. It's got texturing and some like knurling. Doesn't feel remarkably different, maybe just a touch fatter on the Gen 2. Coming forward on the Gen 1, you have a plastic trigger guard that's one part of the stock, so if you break the trigger guard, you gotta get a new stock. That's the same on the Ruger American Gen 2 and the Gen 1. The magazine system is 3+1. It's a rotary mag on the standard Ruger American Gen 1, but if you get the Ranch or Predator, you can get different magazine systems now. Has a tab in the front, really easy to operate. There were some reported reliability issues with it though. I personally had great luck with it and like it. Receiver screws right here and right here. You can remove the barreled action from the stock very easily with access to those receiver screws. We're gonna try some gold metal match. This is 168 grain federal gold metal match ammunition. Really good stuff generally. It isn't zeroed for this ammunition, but we're gonna see how it shoots for groups. We got the FX Outdoors True Ballistic chronograph here. Link in the description for that chronograph, as well as the Vortex Viper HD 315 scope. Second target from the left, lower left red square. Ooh, it's not liking that ammunition. All over the place. Velocities 26.32. I know I'm flinchy today, but I am not that flinchy. It's about a 2.5 inch group there with the Federal Gold metal match. Surprising. On this Ruger, I wish the release lever for the mag was actually a paddle off to the side of the trigger guard or in front of the magazine. Kind of a weird little lever there, don't really prefer it. All right, we're gonna try one more group with this. This is a Hornady custom ammunition in this 308 in this Ruger American. We're gonna try one group, second target from the left. I'm shooting in such a quick sequence here, the barrels aren't cooling. I'm getting really fatigued really fast here. Upper left circle. I think I flinched on that last one. It likes that 150 SSTs, I believe. Probably right at 3/4 MOA, maybe 1 MOA. So Ruger American best group of the day, only shot a couple groups. And this was the Hornady custom 308 150 SST bullets. About 0.606. About a 0.606 group out of the Ruger American the first day, so not bad with factory Hornady SST 150 custom factory loads. Taking a look at the Gen 2, you have a plastic trigger guard, and then it has a separate piece right here for the AICS magazine system. It has a magazine release lever right here. It's very small, in my opinion, hard to operate, and you have to basically remove that to get to the action screw to remove the barrel action from the receiver. So in my opinion, that's a big negative. Then taking a look inside the Gen 2, you have V-block metal bedding. Grooves in your receiver sit on those metal V-blocks. The Gen 1 had this exact same thing, works fantastic, actually a pretty good bedding system. No issues whatsoever there. Coming to the fore end of the stock, it's very stiff on the Gen 2 and has tons and tons of reinforcement down the barrel channel, and it is fully free-floated, features metal sling swivel studs with the rear one being recessed, if you can see there. Ruger Gen 2 at 200 yards, 300, and then we'll go 4. We'll just go 1.5 MOA for 200, just that parallax, the middle gong there. All right, first round hit. Velocity on that, 27.55 again. All right, 300 yards, Ruger American Gen 2. We're gonna go 4 MOA. 150 grain SSTs are flying good out of this gun. We'll go on the circle all the way to the left. First round hit. Velocity on that was 27.50. All right, 400 yards, Ruger American Gen 2. I'm actually guessing holdover. Hitting them though. The Ruger American Gen 1 is basically like got a long cut along the side of the receiver, whereas the Gen 2 has like multiple cuts. Both have bolt release levers on the side. The Gen 2 is Cerakoted, the Gen 1 is not Cerakoted, and the Gen 2 barrel is Cerakoted, and the Gen 1 is not Cerakoted. Now there are Cerakoted versions out there, but the standard does not come Cerakoted in the Gen 1. The fore end on the Gen 1 is way more flexy as well, and not really truly free-floated, and in the Gen 2 it definitely is. The Gen 1 barrel for the standard in 308 is 22 inches. In 308 on the Gen 2, it's 20 inches. So they shortened that barrel. That allowed it to be about 1.1 or 0.2 pounds lighter. So Gen 2 comes in at 6.2 pounds. Gen 1 comes in at like 6.1 pounds. The Gen 1 is not threaded in the standard version and does not come with a radial muzzle brake. The Gen 2 does come not only spiral fluted, but threaded 5/8 by 24 with a beautiful radial muzzle brake. Both feature Ruger Marksman trigger. It has a curved trigger blade with a center trigger blade in that, or passive safety. It is adjustable supposedly between 3 and 5 pounds. Now the Gen 2, mine I could never get below 3.5 pounds. Relatively crisp and clean, not terrible. It has a little bit of creep, but both generations have the same issues with the trigger. A little bit of creep, some over travel, not too bad, not too good. It's nice that they're use adjustable. Some of them adjust down to 2.5 or 3 pounds, some don't. The Ruger Gen 1, all of mine adjusted down to 2.5 or 3 pounds. This Ruger Gen 2 didn't want to for some reason, but that could just be luck of the draw. One big change here is you have a 3-position safety on the Gen 2. On the Gen 1, you do not. And this locks the bolt when on safe. When forward, you can operate the bolt but not fire. All the way forward, you can fire. The Gen 2 just has a safe on, safe off, and it does not lock the bolt on safe like the Gen 2 does. Metal shroud on the back of the Gen 2 here, a little bit better bolt release design. 3 locking lugs, polished bolt, little mini claw extractor right there, a plunger ejector, and it has a 70-degree bolt throw. Both bolts almost identical, only I feel like they polished the Gen 2 bolt a little bit better, and they removed a lot of the zipper noise when running the action. It's a lot smoother. Doesn't have nearly as much zipper noise when running the bolt, which was a big complaint with the Gen 1. Got the Ruger American Gen 2. One thing I noticed with this is that sometimes the magazine's tough to go in. That time it went in just fine. Nice smooth bolt there. 3-position safety. Second target from the left center red circle. So one flyer there, probably a 2-inch group, not great. And it's an extremely hot day, probably 85 degrees out here, bright sun. That first group was pretty bad, but it was the first group ever out of this rifle. And it might take some cleanings and some break-in, you know, to get this thing shooting good, or some just little adjustments. Now, the 0 isn't perfect on this, it was just sighted in. Second target from the right upper left circle. Fairly light rifle here. 0's a little off, but let's see how she groups. Pretty bad. Once again, two right on top of each other almost, and then one flyer. Could be the action screws need to be tightened. Could be the barrel's hot. 2-inch screw again out of this Ruger American Gen 2. So let's take a look at the Gen 1. Run that one. Yeah, hear that? Super zippery and nasty sounding. Gen 2 doesn't even sound like the same rifle. Also, the Gen 2 comes with a Picatinny rail on the top that's beautiful and looks very, very fitted for the receiver. Looks like one piece almost, yet it is removable. The Gen 1 did not in the standard version, and there was a lot of machining marks visible on the top of the receiver as well. So the fit, feel, and finish of the Gen 2 is like day and night, 1,000 times better than the Gen 1. However, the magazine system, I actually had better luck with the Gen 1, even though the Gen 2 can take AICS mags. I've had some issues with it not wanting to seat when the bolt's closed. You pretty much have to have the bolt open to easily seat the magazine, which sometimes I don't like, and it just seems a little finicky. But both Gen 1 and Gen 2 have reported magazine issues from time to time. We're going to take these out to the range and see how they perform. Today, we're going to be going over the Ruger American. It has become a very common and popular rifle in the last several years for being extremely affordable, yet reliable and consistently accurate. Decent amount of recoil. It is a light rifle. So 200 yards. Beautiful. Hit. There we go, first shot, 400 yards. The Ruger American is a great budget rifle. All right, we got the new Ruger Gen 2 in .308 Winchester, the new Vortex Viper HD 3-15 by 44. Shooting 975 yards, 28 MOA of elevation here, almost zero wind hold today. All right, here we go. Ready? I flinched. All right, folks, so both rifles extracted, ejected, fed just fine, both capable of sub-MOA accuracy out of the box with Hornady factory ammunition. Both very, very accurate rifles. I did have some magazine issues getting that magazine to seat and sometimes come out on the Gen 2 more so than the Gen 1. The Gen 1 trigger was able to adjust down better, and it feels a little bit better and lighter than the Gen 2, but I think that's just gonna depend on which rifle you get. I think they're using the same exact trigger body, same trigger in the rifle. That's probably just luck of the draw there. I do like the safety much better on the Gen 2, and the ergonomics of it way better than the Gen 1. And the Gen 1 is just a little bit longer than the Gen 2 by about 2 inches, I believe. So, and basically that comes down to that it has a shorter barrel. In closing, both really good budget rifles, both really ideal for those beginner hunters and shooters out there. If you're looking at both of these, if you see a really good deal on the Gen 1, I'd definitely pick it up. I feel like it's a much better bang for your buck right now than the Gen 2, but over time that will probably change because you'll probably be able to get all these added bells and whistles at, you know, roughly the same price in the future. It's just these are inflated right now because they're in high demand and there's not a lot on the market, but in the future that might change. Right now in the price category of the Gen 2, I actually think there's probably some better options out there, or maybe you might as well just step up a little bit more into something much better and more reliable, more durable. However, that said, both excellent quality beginner rifles for hunters and shooters alike. Hope you enjoyed this comparison of the Ruger American Gen 2 versus the Ruger American Gen 1. Thanks for watching Bullets for Bucks. Check out this next video and subscribe.